welcome to Green Gander 75. My name is Buddy. We're getting ready to start here on the lower half of the 14.5 inch South Bend Lathe. We're going to take this apart, clean it up real good, paint the outside, and put it back together. There's a couple things that I've been doing as far as research on this lower half and putting together my plans on how to tackle on redoing this. There's a few things that I'm considering here, and I think I'm going to follow through on, is I don't plan to actually repaint the inside of it. If it's in good shape, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as is. I really don't think that it's going to benefit anything by repainting it. Pretty much just a waste of paint and time. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave it painted. Now the back side of the door, anything that you're going to see, of course I'll go ahead and paint that. But the stuff that's behind the motor, inside here, you're never going to see it. And as long as it's got paint on it and it's not corroding, I don't see any reason why it needs to be repainted. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as is. And that will also keep a little bit of the original factory feel to the machine. So it's still there, you just have to look for it. So one of the other things I'm not going to do on here is completely take it apart. There is some there's a shaft in here that's got poured Babbitt bearings. I don't believe I want to tackle that. I'm not really set up to tackle that, so I'm just going to leave that in place. Just give it a good cleaning, make sure everything is in good shape, and put it back together. And I suspect there's a few other things that need to be done in there. Anything needs to be repaired, of course we'll repair that. I know there's a spring in there that's broken. We're going to need to replace that. And I'm sure the motor needs to be taken apart, cleaned, and put back together. Maybe bearings need to be replaced as well. So I think we're ready to go ahead and get started on this, and we'll just see how it goes. Let's go ahead and get going.
Earlier I mentioned that I wasn't going to remove the shaft of the Babbitt bearings. As I disassembled the lower half of the lathe, I quickly realized that I would have to remove the shaft if I wanted to replace all the bearings. The shaft is the pivot point for the carriage that holds the lower cone pulley. To replace the bearings on the cone pulley, I would have to remove the carriage. The shaft is indicated here in red. I very carefully drove the shaft out of the bearings with an old broomstick in the direction of the red arrow. The shaft bearings appear to be in good shape, and with care I think I can get the shaft back in place without issue. Looking now at the cone pulley and shaft. There are two bearings for the shaft pressed into the carriage and held in place with a retainer. I removed the retainer and pressed the shaft bearings and cone pulley out to the right. I then used a bearing puller to remove the right bearing from the shaft. This allowed me to pull the cone pulley and shaft out of the carriage. With the cone pulley and shaft out of the carriage, I was able to place the entire assembly in the press and press the cone pulley and the remaining bearing out of the shaft. Thank you for watching, and join me next time as we continue working on the lower half of the 14.5-inch South Bend lathe. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button and leave me a comment. See you next time, and have a good evening.